the two biggest mistakes I've ever made in my career, but also how those mistakes also turned into the best thing to ever happen for my career. Hello and welcome to the Sharp Podcast. I'm your host Ross Baxter, and today is episode 114 of the series. If you want to grow as an artist and learn what it takes to make it as a career, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Today on the show, we're going to dive in probably into the most important podcast I've probably ever done for you guys, and it's going to be covering the two biggest mistakes I've ever made in my career, but also how those mistakes also turned into the best thing to ever happen for my career. And if you're new to the podcast, as always, the podcast is a weekly series where I bring on guests in the film and game industries to talk about their journey, thoughts on education, you name it, folks. I talk about it here on the podcast. But like I said, this is a topic that I don't think I've ever really touched on enough. So what I've done here is I've broken down some very crucial points on my right here that I feel that's going to be incredibly helpful for you, because I made these two mistakes that resulted in so much change. And yes, these mistakes also happened because of fear. I was going through a time which was incredibly stressful. There was things going on with family, etc. However, because of the decisions that I made during this time, it had a massive compound effect and basically resulted in me almost stopping art completely. So basically, there was a time when I was going through art, I was pursuing this dream job of mine, and it was the place that I always wanted to work for. However, with everything going on at the time, it ended up being just either bad timing, just unfortunately things didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. And I want to touch on some of the mistakes that I made that hopefully will help you guys make your transition into your dream job a lot more smoother. And I also want to say, it's okay if you apply to a studio, or you get into a studio and you realize it's not for you. Some places, or we all have these jobs that maybe we pursued or we've had in the past that just happen to be the wrong place. It's the wrong fit. It's nothing to do with the studio. It's just it's just not the right place for you. Some people work best in small studios. Some people work best in bigger studios. There's always a place out there for us, and it just takes time to find that. And through these two mistakes or two experiences that I decided to make, it resulted in me getting the thing that I wanted, which was to be able to help you guys full time and start my own business. So everything happens for a reason sometimes, I believe, and it's important to never stop, to never give up. Like I said, it basically hit me like a brick when I found out that what I was where I was working at the time wasn't for me, and it was the first time that I stopped enjoying art afterwards, because I felt that it was I was a failure and stuff, and I felt like it was the typical kind of feelings that you go through when you're hit hard, I guess, by something. And it basically, I had to reset myself and just take myself away from art. And it was the first time, like I said, that I stopped enjoying art. It was there was a 6-month hiatus when you guys realized that I didn't post any podcasts. And this is the first time that I've been able to get around to actually explaining the reason why I stopped the podcast during that time. So basically, what I want to talk about is the transition that you go from when you apply for the job and then you actually get the job, but the decisions you make before you actually start the job. So I applied to the studio that I love, and it was a great place to work. However, there was a lot of hurdles that I had to go through in order just to do my daily job. And the reason why was because beforehand I didn't have enough things set up for me to be comfortable. The way I do things, I have to be so so prepared. I always have to be organized. So when I don't have everything organized, I do struggle. And I'm just being honest with you. I truly did struggle. Having there was too many things going on at the time, and I couldn't handle the job. And when you start a new job, you want to make sure that there's no things going on in the background that's going to affect your job. Because at the end of the day, when you apply for any studio or any job in film and game, you're basically given a probation period. So basically, it's the basic kind of review of what I think a probation is simply to. Everyone has different opinions on this, depending on the studio, etc. But it's normally three months in which they kind of see where you're at and if you're the right fit, etc. Some studios are a bit more generous than others. There's some cases where you get more than 3 months, and they just basically review how you're doing over time and make sure that you're the right fit for them, because at the end of the day, they're invested in you. And when I was going through my probation period for one of the places I was working for, so I've had the pleasure of working for multiple places, but this place in particular, I always wanted to work. And unfortunately, believe it or not, when I moved down, and I was 2 months, so I was 2 months. I was living in the place for the city for 2 months, and I thought at the time, this is enough time for me to get organised. So getting my doctor's stuff set up, my dentist, making sure my flat was organised, making sure that my internet was organised and stuff, and making sure that I felt comfortable in the place that I was moving. And maybe me, I was like, I've moved 14 times. This is just usual for me. I've moved so many times, things are going to go nice and smooth. However, it didn't result that way. It resulted in, unfortunately, basically my flat had so many problems. There were so many things going back and forth that I was like, wait, this can't be happening. So basically, I was going to work, and when I was going to work, I wasn't thinking about work. All I was thinking about was all these other things that I had going on at the time, including some family stuff that I just couldn't think. And it was the first time, probably I could even remember in my life, that I genuinely didn't know what to do. Like there were so many things going on that I couldn't handle it. And this is the reason why I wanted to share this on the podcast, is when you put so much time and effort to pursue this career, and then you get your dream job, but you don't plan in advance or make sure everything is fully prepared, it could have consequences. And yes, studios do want to support you as best as you can and make sure that transition is smooth as possible, but it is down to you to make sure that you feel relaxed. And some people in these situations react differently than others. And in my case at the time, I was like, you know what, this is where I want to be. This is me set for life. This is the place that I'm going to be living. And I never took a step back and prepared enough time in advance so that I felt comfortable when I started my job. So when I started my job, I was just too stressed. And I'm normally an incredibly relaxed person. I'm a very, like, you know me, I always talk all the time, I love talking to people. And it was the first time that I genuinely couldn't talk to people. I struggled socializing. I struggled being myself. I struggled being open. And I'm always normally the most open person. And it was the first time in my life that I was just like, this is not right. And I think it's crucial that when you do create your portfolio and you do apply to these jobs and you get the job, make sure that you're relaxed and comfortable in the place that you are. Have a look around the city or the town, wherever it is, and get to know the place. Feel like you're in the right place and see if it's for you before you make that commitment. And it's all down to preparation at the end of the day. So I was clearly not prepared at the time. I thought it was going to be a breeze. I thought it was going to be easy. And this is something that I think could help. So this episode hopefully will help so many people, because you could be the best artist, you could be the best at what you do, but we're all human at the end of the day. There's so many other things that are more important than just art, and you have to prioritize that and realize that at the end of the day, like, your health does matter. So make sure that you focus on getting the things that you normally think are small, get them done right. So get everything planned in advance, be prepared, and give yourself some breathing space, and don't rush into it. Yes, I understand we all have to we all go through different experiences in life. Some decisions are harder than others, but take your time with it and don't feel like you have to kind of just know everything straight away. And another thing that I want to touch on is, so when I was going through this, basically this kind of period of struggling to basically be open with what was going on, obviously during this time basically I broke down and I couldn't handle it, and as a result I decided to leave. So I decided to leave the job that I was going for, and this was a job that I was going for years, and I was surrounded by great people, and it was but it was just, there was just too many things I couldn't handle. So as a result, the biggest mistake that I made, so the second biggest mistake was I panicked, and when I panicked, it resulted in me not liking art anymore. And so what I said earlier, I decided to take a break, and me being me, I'm very I like to switch off from the world. So what happened was I basically deleted everything. I went the extreme route, and don't ever do this. This is why I'm saying this is the biggest mistake I ever made. So the most important thing in our industry is people. So we all have to help each other. We all have to support each other and do our best. And when I panicked, I resulted in deleting my social media. I started deleting all my connections on LinkedIn, so the great relationships I built for years and friendships I built, and out of fear and stress, I basically burned my bridges, and don't ever do that. I've learned from my mistake, and over the last few years I've been slowly building it back up, and people are asking me all the time, like, Ross, where have you gone? You've disappeared, man. You've disappeared. You've gone. And for years I've been wanting to do this episode, and I was trying to figure out how do I do it, and I was like, well, let's just have an open conversation explaining what happened and the reasons why I did it. And I made a post it might be a few months ago, saying the reason why I deleted ArtStation. So I used to be addicted to ArtStation. I love ArtStation, I still do, but because of everything going on at the time, I deleted my ArtStation. Don't delete your ArtStation. Whatever you do, don't delete your ArtStation. I think when you're going through these stressful situations, the best thing to do is to reach out to somebody. I was fortunate at the time. I was able to talk to my mum, and I was able to just explain to her what was happening, etc. Because I couldn't sleep. I went through 3 days. It was like three and a half days I didn't sleep. So I didn't sleep for like 80 hours. Because it was just that stressful, and I literally was just telling my mum everything, what was going on, etc., and it made things so much easier. And like I said, the biggest mistake is don't burn your bridges. I've been incredibly grateful with everybody who's came on the podcast and who's supported me over the years, and I let fear get the best of me. And normally I never do. It used to be my arch nemesis. I used to hate failure. It used to be my arch nemesis, the fear of failure. And but I was glad I went through this experience, because it helped me become a better person in terms of realizing the mistakes that I made, and hopefully these mistakes or the situation I went through will hopefully help you with your decision making. So yeah, like I said, so make sure it's going to sound so simple, but the small things always matter. So make sure you're prepared before you get your job. You've got everything organized in advance. You've set everything up. Yes, some people prefer it just to do over time and gradually, but if you're more like me and you want to feel focused on the job and just have no kind of added stress, etc., then make sure to give it the time that it deserves, because it backfired against me, and I don't want the same thing to happen to you. And I guess the other thing as well to realize, and this isn't normally a phrase that I don't normally say, but don't always put your eggs in one basket. Like, it's okay to have multiple studios that you have a passion for. Like, and I've learned that from this experience. Like, it's okay if you don't end up wanting to work for a certain studio, it's okay to move on and to find another place. It's not the end of the world. And I learned that through this experience. And also, don't judge certain studios or certain places just by one experience, because there's going to be there's going to be many more jobs out there for the taking that could be the best fit. The best ever job that I ever had was actually my first ever job. I was working for an oil company doing the blueprints, so doing like the kind of working with their kind of architecture team, a part of the oil company as well. So basically, I had two main departments that helped design buildings and rigs, etc. And it was the best experience of my entire work life, in terms of it was a smaller studio for me, and it was the best fit because I really like to get to know my team, etc., and get really close, etc., and help them out as best as I can. But the only way you're going to find out what's the right fit for you is by trying and by doing things. And by this experience of me going through things, I realized that starting my own business was actually the way to go. So I did obviously the previous episode about being self-employed, and I've realized over time, and when I started my business, it was the best decision. So everything actually ended up being the best thing that could happen for me. So I hope that really helps you out. And I know some of these things may sound very small, and I also know it's a very short episode of the podcast, but I wanted to just do a really short episode to kind of share this story and explain to you the three main things. So once again, give your probation time. Make sure you're as relaxed and prepared for your probation time, because you've technically not got the job until you've passed that kind of position. And some friends as well would say as well that you're technically not a full-time artist until you're even like a year into the job. So make sure that you're patient and that you're prepared in advance. And also, like I said, never burn your bridges. At the end of the day, we all have to work in this together, help each other grow, and just work together as a team. And if you don't know something, ask. Never be afraid to ask questions. Like I said, when I was going through this experience, it was the first time that it kind of hit me that I was like, I don't want to talk to anyone. It was I just couldn't handle it at the time, and that's okay. If you it's okay if you can find one person. Trust me, it makes all the difference. It made all the difference for me, and it helped me finally get back to where I wanted to be, and also start the podcast again, because I was actually going to stop. Like I was hit that hard by it that I thought I was going to quit the podcast. I was like, I don't know if I want to do anything art related again. And then finally I got my energy back, and I was back and rolling, and I loved it. So I hope this episode has helped you. It'd be nice to hear you guys, your thoughts and opinions, etc., in the description below. And as always, if you guys are new to the podcast, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe as always. But thank you for listening, and I hope this episode helps you. I know it's short, I know it's really short, but to me it's probably the most important decision you'll make, and it's simply that transition from going from applying for a job and then getting a job, and making sure that transition is as smooth and easy as possible for you. And I hope that helped you out today. So thank you for listening, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.